So once again, Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora here with Borio's Restaurant, 8891 McDonald's Parkway for those watching and listening in. And obviously Pearl, Washington, Syracuse Orange men's basketball great. Myself, Dan Tortora, we've been able to go around Central New York and do some pretty amazing things with the fans lately. And I'm very happy to be out at Borio's in Cicero to do that for this community as well. And first and foremost with you, to look at Boeheim, to look at his history, one of the questions I got asked on a radio station that's down in North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, was Boeheim's legacy. Do I believe that it's intact? Do I believe that it's been tainted at all? And my belief is that ultimately it hasn't, because of the way he handled himself at the press conference, because he's not running away and he is staying with his team. And because I think deep down in the heart of every Syracuse fan, there's always going to be, even if it's a little bit, there's going to be love for Boeheim. Do you, when you look at his legacy, do you see it tainted, or are you more on what I'm seeing in that Syracuse fans that are Syracuse fans are always going to love this man?
I agree with you 100% too also. Boeheim has been at the university almost 40 years. And I just think that the things that he's done at Syracuse, as far as with the coach and the kids that he do get that come to the school, he's done a great job. I mean, he's got all those wins. He's trying to get to 1,000 wins, but all that stuff is going to get appealed. And when it gets appealed, more than likely, we're hoping that he'll get those wins back. So I just think that Boeheim has done a tremendous job the time that he has been at Syracuse. And you know, after 3 years, when he make that decision, I mean, it could be earlier, it could be later, when it's time for him to leave.
The question about 3 years was the question at his press conference that I had asked him, the third question in, about why 3 years, why did it make sense? It's something that I felt was important. He said in that statement, it could be 1 year, it could be 2 years. 3 is the outside number because I want to stay an effective coach. What do you think about the statement that he made in that respect, that he said, you know what, I'd like to stick around for 3 years just to see this thing through, but if I'm not an effective coach, my ego is going to go to the side and I'm going to walk away?
I don't think Boeheim would do that. I just think that Boeheim is the kind of coach where he respects his players, and I think whatever happened through the NCAA with him, it happened. So I think he's just trying to make sure that everything goes well at this point. And Boeheim has been very successful in his wins. He's been very successful with his 2-3 zone. And I just think that Boeheim is one of those kind of guys that when something happens, he'd like to take care of it.
Coaches can run away. John Calipari of Kentucky right now is a coach we're going to talk about tonight, a coach that has seemingly run away. Some people have called Jim Boeheim a coward in the media. Not something I agree with. I know it's not something you agree with. How do you respond to hearing Boeheim as a coward in some people's minds, despite the fact that he said, listen, I'm here for 3 years. The sanctions, most of them are going to be done in 4 years, so he's going to be through 75% of it. When people are calling him a coward in the media, what does that make you think, and how do you respond to something like that?
Well, I don't respect people that in that respect if they say he's a coward. I mean, he's been there for all these years, and nothing at this point is going to stop him from coaching this team. I just think that some people just don't like Boeheim, and then there's a lot of people that do love Boeheim. And I think Boeheim has done enough here at the Syracuse University to where people respect him. But then you always have other people who, you know, just don't, like you said, think he's a coward, and he's not a coward. Boeheim does everything he needs to do for this team. And by him staying here for these 3 years and being able to support these teams that's coming in, or the guys that's coming in next year, and also the guys that's there, I just think that's a tremendous job for him.
Would you expect anything less from, obviously knowing him personally for a very long time, when all this came out and he had an opportunity to stay, leave, do whatever he wanted to at the age of 70 years old, are you surprised at all that he said, I've been with this program, as he said, next to my family, this is where the majority of my energy goes into. Are you surprised at all that at 70 years old he's saying, you know what, let's go to battle again, and I'm going to be here through most of it?
No, I just think Boeheim is one of those kind of person. He has his own ego. He does what he wants to do. And to me, I think he's done doing the right thing. I think staying here till let's get over it as far as the NCAA. And even though they got to possibly lose 16, I think it was 12 scholarships.
Yep.
12 scholarships. That's going to be trying to see if that can get appealed too also. But, the way Boeheim thinks in his mind is like he's not going to do something that he don't want to do. He wants to stay in the school and coach.
When you look at how effective he is as a coach right now, he brought up being effective and wanting to stay effective. He felt like this year he did a pretty good job, but he wanted to do more. From your standpoint, how effective do you think he's been? Because it seems like as recruiting changes, as coaches change around the country, younger coaches come in, so many different things have happened in college basketball. Autonomy is happening with the 5 power conferences. He's been able to survive and thrive through every change that's been made to NCAA basketball. How do you see him today as opposed to when he was coaching you?
Well, one of the things that I enjoyed about Boeheim is at the end of the season, he said, I can't believe we won 18 games. 18 games is a lot for a team that really, when you look at the big picture, really wasn't that good. But they worked hard and they did what they had to do to win those games. And so when you say Boeheim says that about those 18 games, that's a coach who's proud of his team, because I don't think he expected that at the beginning of the year to win 18 games. And then at the end to find out that they're not going to go to the ACC or the NIT or the NCAA, I just felt that, that was really kind of tough for him, actually, I can say.
Knowing everything he's been able to put together, the 20-win seasons, Sweet 16 being kind of the norm for Syracuse fans and an expectation, how strange is it as a former player to be watching the television? We're seeing great games in the tournament, but knowing that orange and blue isn't out there. I mean, it's a very seldom occurrence that we're not seeing Jim Boeheim in the NCAA tournament.
Well, that was one of the reasons why I made a decision that I didn't want to go down to the ACC tournament, because Syracuse was going to be there. And I just decided that, if I'm going to go to the ACC tournament, I wanted Syracuse to be there so I can get a chance to watch them in the ACC. I went last year, and they played North Carolina State the first game, and North Carolina State beat them. So we was out the first round of the ACC tournament. But I just think that, Boeheim is, to me, very special. I think he does a lot of things great. I think he has his ego. His ego helps him a lot, too, also, in references to some of the things that he does. And I just think that when it's his time and he feels it's his time ready to go, then I think that's when it'll happen.
Before we take our first break here live from Borio's restaurant, 8891 McDonald's Parkway, for those watching, listening in, Derek Coleman, you talked about you didn't go to the ACC tournament this year. Derek was supposed to be honored by the ACC as the Big East has become part of ACC history now when it comes to Syracuse. He was supposed to be honored this year, and he has changed that to next year. You decided not to go. Is it just, in your mind, the right thing to do that he said, you know what, if you're going to honor me when Syracuse is in the tournament, and then in your case, to not go down? Did it almost feel like the ACC just wasn't a place for Syracuse with everything that happened this year?
Well, I think that is the case, too, also. Just because Syracuse had all those fines and stuff that happened with the players that, 8-10 years ago, Fab Mello and some of the other guys. I just didn't think it was that important to go to the Greensboro and watch the game because, I bleed orange. I do. But the orange is not there for me to watch. It's just not comfortable for me.
Derek Coleman changing it to next year. It just so happens coincidentally, which I don't think is a coincidence in his sense, Georgetown, D.C., in that Verizon Center where the Hoyas play, that is going to be the site of the next tournament for the ACC for 2016. That just so happens to coincide with when Derek Coleman's going to be honored. So he'll be honored in front of the hometown Georgetown fans. I don't see a coincidence in that. I feel like that's kind of something that maybe he wanted to do to kind of restore that Syracuse history in Georgetown. What do you think about being honored? And if you were going to be honored any year, would you want to be honored in Washington, D.C. in front of Georgetown?
Well, the only thing I can say about that, I always thought Georgetown guys were so dirty that they did a lot of nasty stuff. but I wouldn't want to be honored in Georgetown. If I was going to do it, I would have it done in Greensboro, North Carolina, just because it's been there all those years, and if that's what they want to give me by being honored, I would be willing to do it in Greensboro.
We're going to take our first break here at Borio's Restaurant. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, live with Syracuse Orange men's basketball great Pearl Washington, myself, Dan Tortora. We'll be back in just a few minutes here from Borio's Restaurant, the best seat in Central New York.